Hello, welcome to BetonQuest, and you're here because you want to learn how to write quests for a server, I assume. Either you're the server owner or maybe you're a server staff member that wants to write quests for the server, and congratulations and welcome to BetonQuest. So before we get started, there's just a few quick things I want to go over. First of all, if you get stuck at any point, I am just going to be following through the documentation. So if you have the documentation open at the same time, you can stop the video, refer to the documentation. I may not be in the same order, I may not say things the same way, but roughly speaking, I'm going to be following through the documentation, which is really good and amazing. And I just want to give credit to the BetonQuest community who's been working on the documentation because they've been revamping it, and it really is pretty decent, and you shouldn't be afraid of using it. Second of all, there is a Discord channel for BetonQuest, and I'll put the link down below in the description. If you have Discord, then do add BetonQuest to your group of channels that you follow. It's possible when you have a question, if you search in the Discord search bar, that somebody else has already had the question, and you could easily get the help that way. Or you're also, if you're having difficulty finding exactly a match for what your issue is, you can just open a new thread in the questions section on what your question is, and there's usually you get a response within several hours. It's rare that you would have to go a whole day without getting a response from somebody out there. The third thing that I need to tell you is that I learned how to use BetonQuest, and I have tried to learn to program in Python and in Java and JavaScript, and I just don't have a mind for it. But I learned BetonQuest, and I am able to do BetonQuest. So it is difficult for me as a non-kind of developer-y kind of person, but I want to encourage you, if you feel like you're not going to be able to tackle this because it looks really intimidating, do subscribe to the Discord, like I said, because they will help you. They're nice. They're not going to yell at you. You can even ping them and they will respond to you. Don't abuse it though. I mean, be nice about it. The people there are really happy to help you, and you can do this. You really can. So I hope this video helps you. So the other thing you need to know is because I'm not a developer, if I say the wrong lingo or if I seem to be fumbling around with things, it's because I am a little slow at finding my way around still, and it's not intuitive for me. So, just be kind to me and just know ahead of time it's going to be a little wibbly wobbly of a journey, but I will do my best to try to get you through it, and then you can just go to Discord to get help from the really smart guys out there if you get stuck on what I'm trying to tell you. Most likely you started at Spigot or Modrinth or another Minecraft plugin distributor. I don't know of any others that BetonQuest is actually on, but when you went to that page, you found a download for the version BetonQuest 1.12.9, which is currently, at the time of this video, the supported release. They will be going to version 2.0, and that's the version that I'm going to be covering in this video. Now, why would you want to go to 2.0, and why would you maybe want to stay on version 1.12.9, which is a very important question. If you are on a Minecraft version that is 1.7, any variation of 1.17 or under, you need to stay on version 1.12.9 of BetonQuest. If you are on a version that is 1.18 or 1.19, which are the only versions that are currently out as of this recording, I would recommend that you use version 2.0. It has a lot more features. Some bugs are still being fixed in 1.12.9, and certainly no features are being added. And many of the things that people are running into troubles with these days on the Discord have to do with using the older version, and that it doesn't have features that support a lot of the newer plugins that people want to use these days on their servers. So I highly recommend you just start on 2.0. What to do, because you've come to this page and it's 1.12.9, you just go up to this little arrow up here, and we're going to hit the drop down and go to the 2.0 dev page, which will take you to this page instead. And this will be the startup page for the new version. Then up here at the top, we're going to be starting with the tutorials, because this is a tutorial on how to use BetonQuest. The first thing we're going to be going over is setting up an environment for you to be able to build quests in. BetonQuest is not a GUI-based plugin development tool. There are GUI-based plugin tools out there, They do not offer as many features as BetonQuest does and as much integration with other plugins. So that's something to consider if you decide that you don't want to keep going with BetonQuest and with this tutorial. You might want to go seek those out. But if you do, bear in mind you need to like rein your expectations in a little bit, because they're going to be very simple, singular threaded conversations that you can do there most of the time, not always. Okay, so moving on, we need an environment. So the first thing to do is to start with our environment, and that means we need to create a folder that we can build a server in. Okay, so we're just going to call this Quest Dev for development. So this is our Quest Dev server that we're going to build. And then we're going to open that up and we're going to add a few files to start with in here. Oh, by the way, I'm working on an Apple computer. So I know a lot of you in Windows, your interface is going to look a lot different, and I can't even tell you what will be different on it. So hopefully when I say open a folder and name it, you know what to do. So open up create a folder. You can leave it on your desktop for now and just name it what you want to call it. I'm calling mine Quest Dev. And the first thing that we need to do is create a start file for our server. And that's usually done with a .txt file, .text file. Let's see, I've got to find mine. Okay. So we're going to create a new text file. And you want to name your text file. We are going to name it, if you're on Apple, it's going to be named start.command. And if you're on Windows, you would name it start.bat, like that. Okay, so I'm going to get rid of the Windows one. That's going to be the name of our, we don't want it to be text. Thank you very well. We'll change that in a second. Okay, so inside of our start.command file, there's all kinds of important things here I need to tell you. This needs to be in raw text format, because if we copy this in here, yeah. So see it as how these characters all look kind of clean and not computery. There's technical terms for all this, and I am not a technical person, but this is not going to run correctly in the command line. So you need to make sure that this is actually in a file format that is, okay. So if you are on an Apple computer, we want this to be in a plain text format. So we're going to make this plain text. There we go, much better. And if you are on Windows, the same thing for you. Make sure when you create your text document that however it is you change that to plain text, that you do that. Then I'm going to copy in this from my other start file. And basically what this is doing up here is it's telling the command line, this is your terminal command line, it's basically giving it the directions up here of what directories to go to and run your server from. This information right here is all telling it different things about how much memory to use, how to dump different garbage collector things. It's all fancy stuff like that. If you don't want to put all this stuff in there, you can look at the tutorial and the BetonQuest, and you can use the much simpler thing there they have that just basically says how much memory to give to your server, and you can use that simple one. This is all just a lot more advanced stuff. And then this last thing is basically, well, there's actually two more things. This piece right here is saying, look for any file inside of our folder that's named paper, and then anything else after, ignore it, and then .jar on the end. And it's going to run it in the terminal over here. This right here is going to tell it not to open up a GUI window. You can delete that if you want to see the GUI window. It gives you a bunch of printout on what's going on on the server and stuff like that, I just use my terminal window. There's much better information there, in my opinion. I find the GUI distracting and it gets in my way. So that's what all that kind of means in a very non-technical sort of way, because I technically don't understand anything about what it's saying, really. Okay, so we're going to save this. Okay, and now I have it saved into this folder, and it says start.command.text. We do not want it to be a text field, so we're going to quickly cut that off, and it's going to yell at us about that, and we are going to say yes, we want it to be called start command. And then we're going to close this because we don't need it anymore. Okay, the next thing we need to do is go get a Minecraft server. I don't know what you would call it, a jar that will run a Minecraft server locally that you can develop on. And most of the BetonQuest people would recommend you actually use Paper, which is actually a fork of Spigot. So you're still using Spigot if you're using Paper. Paper's just more performant. So we're going to go get a paper jar. And to do that, we're going to go out to the paper download site. We're going to get the most current version of 1.19.3 is the version we're on right now. We're going to download that, and as soon as that finishes, we're going to go drop that into our folder that we created for our server. Just going to leave this open. Okay, so we're going to drag that into our new server. So now we're going to run our start command. All right, now that was an interesting little issue, but I talked to a very intelligent person who helped me figure out how to get around this little problem. So we're going to close the error message down, and this is actually a good thing because I wouldn't want you guys to run into this issue on your own. This is only a problem if you're using an Apple computer. Windows people, I don't know, you may have your own issues, but I doubt it. This is a security feature for Apple that prevents people from being able to put executables on your computer and run them without special permission to do so. So let's just clear that. And the folder that is our new Quest folder that we're going to be using, our development folder, you want to right click on that, Apple people, and go all the way down and look for this one that says new terminal at the folder, okay? We don't need the tab at folder, just new terminal at folder. So click on that, and that's going to open up your terminal. And once we get that open, we're going to type in, don't be afraid, it's just a really short command thing that we're going to type in here and hit enter, and then it's all going to be good. And I will put that little string that you need in here, I'll put that also in the description with a copy of the text that goes into that start command document. Hopefully that all makes sense to you. So what we're going to type in is chmod plus x. Let's see. And then we're going to type the name of the text document that we're giving the permissions to, which is start.command. And then hit enter. And that's all we have to do. Then we can close this. Then we should be able now to, this is our old one that had that error message, so we should now be able to open this and it should run without any problems. Ta-da, just like that. So hopefully that all works for you, and if it doesn't, then on this particular issue, you should probably comment on this video. I don't know that the people at BetonQuest are going to know how to help you with that. Maybe, but I think I'm maybe the only Mac user out there. Okay, moving along. Okay, so now we have our paper jar in here, and we're going to run our start command, which is going to open our terminal and then run this jar. And it should run and then stop, and it's going to give us an error message. Okay, and so this is what we were looking for. The first time you try to start the server, it's going to error out. So what it did is it created that end user license, and we're going to go into that, this EULA text, and we need to accept the agreement in there. So we're going to open that with our text editor application. And instead of false, we're going to change it to true. And that's basically agreeing to the end user license agreement for Mojang, that we will use this according to their rules. Save that and close it. and close this terminal window because it's going to open a new one. So now we're going to start our start command again, and it should create all the worlds and a whole bunch of directories in here for us. And you'll be able to see here as it's doing stuff, it'll be creating a bunch of folders for us. There. And so when you see this message right here that says timings reset, that's usually an indication that it's finished loading the server and that it's ready to start taking new information or to be played on or whatever you want. So for now, we want to stop our server, and you just type in stop after the arrow right here, and that will stop the server, and you'll see a bunch of information that it backs stuff up, and then it'll tell you the process is complete. So then we will close that, and we want to go back to the folder that we just created, which now you can see has a whole bunch of directories in it. The most important directories that you need to worry about are right here. These three right here are your end, nether, and your main world. And this one right here is where we're going to put any new plugins. Everything else in here, if you don't know what it is, you don't need to mess with it. Don't delete it. Don't move any of it anywhere. Don't put your plugins out here. Make sure your plugins all go into this folder here. Now, the next thing we want to do is get some of the we want to get our jar. If you go to Spigot, the only version jar you're going to get is the 1.12.9, and we want the 2.0 version. So, and if you go to Modrinth, same thing. Oh, actually, cool. Modrinth actually has the 2.0 dev build and the 1.12.9. So I've never done this. Let's just click here and see what we get. So that downloaded it. And we'll go to our download folder here. Your plugin jars, just make sure you never overwrite this .jar on the end, but you can change the names to other things if you want. I like to label the version of the jar. So this one's 2.0. It would be nice to know what the snapshot version was. Let's see if that was available. Okay, this is snapshot 507. So I like to also capture that snapshot number. So if I'm having a particular issue, I can tell the devs I got it off of 507. Okay. Now that needs to go into our plugin folder here. So the next thing we need to do is BetonQuest has some loose dependencies. I highly recommend you just download them because there's ways to use BetonQuest without these two, but it's actually harder to learn BetonQuest without them. So if you think it's going to be easier if you just don't deal with them now, then in this case you'd be wrong. You definitely need to download these. So if you're staying up with Minecraft versions, you're also going to need development versions, just like BetonQuest 2.0 is a development version. You're going to need the development versions of the plugins that you're using with BetonQuest. So hopefully this is going to take us to their development site, and it doesn't. It takes us to Spigot. So you might be able to, since this says 1.19.3, you might be able to use it. Oh, by the way, Citizens says it's a paid plugin, and they would really appreciate it if you donated. And BetonQuest too would also appreciate it if you enjoy their plugin and you want to keep it on your server, especially if you're making money on your server, that you give a little kickback to the people who are maintaining it for all of us. But you can get a free version of Citizens if you click on this link here. And that takes you to their development repository. And you just need to, this will always be the first link here will be the most recent development jar. So we're going to download this .jar here. All right, so that successfully downloaded, and we're going to move that into our plugin folder. In fact, so since we're primarily going to be at this point working with just plugins, I'm going to go ahead and just go directly into the plugin folder to make it easier to drop the plugins in there. All right, now we've got our Citizens plugin, and we're going to drop that in there. And it already has the snapshot version on there, which is good because I like to keep track of that. And now the next thing we need is one more dependency plugin. And now we need the dev build of ProtocalLib. So we're going to go out there. And once again, it did not take us to the dev site. It took us to the Spigot site. And ProtocalLib 4.8 does not work with 1.19.3. In fact, you can see down here, it tells us that if you're running Minecraft 1.19.3, you will need the latest dev build. So down here, they always have the links for the different versions, so to make it easier to know if you're ever looking for it. So we're going to click on the dev build and download that. And it does not have the name of the snapshot. It's 612. So we're going to add that when we get it downloaded. So here is our ProtocalLib. And we want to name it with the 612 in it. Okay, so now it's renamed 612. Again, be careful that you leave that .jar on the end. If for some reason you mess that up, in fact, a lot of times I'll do it intentionally. If I want to disable a plugin that I think might be causing problems and I temporarily just want it to not be causing me any problems and I don't want to load it, I can put .back or .old. And when you save that, it's going to give you an error message. It says, are you sure that you want to name it use old? And I'll say yes. You'll see it didn't get rid of the .jar, just added the .old extension. And now your server will not run that jar or that plugin when it starts up, so temporarily disabling it. So it's just an easy way to disable a plugin if you need to troubleshoot some things. But for now, we're going to leave it as jar and leave it there. Okay. So let's go back up one more level because we need to start our server and click our start command and see what happens. Hopefully we don't get any errors. So we're just going to wait and see how this does. Okay, so here's our timings reset, and you'll see that we did get one message after that. It's telling us that there's actually a newer version of BetonQuest available to be installed. And if you want to install it from here, you could follow the command and just type Q update. Now, if you want to execute commands, you can actually execute them right here in your terminal. You don't want to type a slash. So you'll just type the same command you would type in Minecraft. You just remove the slash. And the other thing is it will not tab complete. Although it does have a little bit of a helpful hint. It changed the color here to green, which basically is indicating it recognized the command. And we could do that, and it's going to update the jar for us. It tells us it finished and that we need to restart the server in order for the plugin to activate. So if you started doing some work right now and then try to run it, it would have an error because you didn't restart your server. So we're going to stop our server. So now we need to restart our server again. And it looks like everything ran. Most of the time, if something isn't working on your server, you're going to see either red or yellow text up here. Now, yellow text does not always mean something is broken on your server. Sometimes it just is a warning letting you know that a plugin is out of date. It's just kind of an FYI notification, usually. Sometimes it is an error or it's something that didn't run in your quest or something like that. Red is an exception error, and that's bad. That means something really isn't working well on your server and you need to research and look into why it's not working. All right, great. Now that we have our plugins installed and we've started our server and we've checked for any errors and it's clear of errors, the last thing we need to do is set things up so that you can log into the game and connect to your local server to be able to check for errors and to test your quests and stuff like that in future tutorials that we're going to do. So we're going to open up Minecraft and we're going to go into multiplayer mode and we want to create a new server. So we're going to add a server here and you can name it whatever you want. We're going to call this one Quest Dev Server to match our folder. That makes it easy to keep track of. And then we need to get our IP address for our local machine. On a Windows machine, I don't know exactly how to do that. I'm sure you do, or you can find a video on how to do it or something. I know it's not that hard. Let's see, from an Apple iOS machine, we're going to go to the Wi-Fi icon and click on it. and go down to your network preferences folder. And in this version of Apple iOS, it says right here what the name of my router is and what my network address is on the router. So I have that. I'm going to log this in here at 0.111, and then we need to give it a port. The default port for a Minecraft server is 25565. So that should work. Hopefully we should see it down here, and it looks like it connected. We're getting a ping from it. So that should be working. We're going to go ahead and log in and make sure there's no errors on the server when the player logs in, and that looks all good. And this is our start point for our test world. We might want to real quick put ourselves in op. Oh, whoops, pardon me. We got to do that from the console. So yeah, you can't op yourself from the game, but right here, remember no slash, we're going to put in op and then our player name. And now we're opt, and we want to make the game mode creative so we don't die, and we're all set. That's pretty much it for this tutorial. You have your environment set up. If you have any questions on what we did or you ran into any problems doing any of this, you can put messages in this video. That's fine, but I'm less likely to get to them. I'm always out at the Discord for BetonQuest. So, and other people are there that know all this stuff and they can help you with this too. So I would suggest you put your questions or your concerns out there, and they will be faster at responding to the issues you're having and getting you set on the right course. So thanks for sticking around, and I'll see you next time. We'll be starting our first quest.